What if the most valuable possession you owned was the very thing that made you a laughingstock in front of the richest man in America? When Shanice Turner, a struggling single mother working double shifts at Riverside Diner, becomes the target of a billionaire's cruel joke about her tarnished wedding ring, she never imagines that the faded engraving hidden inside will not only silence his mockery, but set in motion a chain of events that would shatter his arrogant world and transform her life forever. What if a single mother could carry the weight of a fallen hero and still rise before the sun each day with hope in her heart? In the pale blue light of 5:30 a.m., Shanice Turner moves through her cramped two-bedroom apartment with the quiet efficiency of someone who has transformed necessity into ritual. The ancient floorboards creak beneath her worn nursing shoes as she navigates around second-hand furniture arranged with mathematical precision, each surface dusted and gleaming despite the building's perpetual battle with mold that creeps up the bathroom walls no matter how much bleach she applies. She pauses at her daughter Zoe's bedroom door, adorned with a handmade keep out sign decorated with glittery unicorn stickers, gently pushing it open to reveal the sleeping 8-year-old curled around a well-loved stuffed giraffe, her small brown fingers clutching its neck as she dreams. School certificates and colourful art projects line the walls like badges of honour, each one a testament to the light Shanice fights to keep alive in her child, despite the shadow that fell over their lives 3 years ago, when the military officers arrived at their door with folded flags and practiced condolences. Bending to kiss Zoe's forehead, breathing in the sweet scent of coconut hair oil and childhood, Shanice whispers a promise to be home for dinner before tucking the pink comforter more securely around small shoulders. In the kitchen, she packs a lunch with military precision, a peanut butter sandwich cut into stars, apple slices sprinkled with cinnamon to prevent browning, a juice box purchased with double coupon savings, and a handwritten note with a joke that will make Zoe smile in the cafeteria hours later. The refrigerator hums anxiously, its aging motor working overtime like Shanice herself. The door plastered with payment schedules for electricity, rent always 2 weeks behind, and a calendar marking shifts at the Riverside Diner in red and blue ink that blur together in an endless stream of obligations. As she gathers her purse and keys, Shanice catches her reflection in the hall mirror, adjusting her crisp white uniform shirt over dark slacks still sharp with iron creases, her eyes lingering on the tarnished gold band on her left hand, the only thing of value she owns besides her daughter. Her fingers find the ring instinctively, twisting it clockwise 3 times, the way Marcus used to spin it on her finger when he proposed. Before deployments, after arguments, a private circle of connection now maintained only by her own touch. The metal warms against her skin as she whispers, not a prayer exactly, but a conversation with a ghost who still feels present in the morning quiet, asking for strength to face another day of small indignities with the grace he always admired in her. Locking the apartment door, Shanice straightens her shoulders and descends the stairwell that smells of cabbage and floor cleaner, stepping out into the dark morning where the first bus will carry her toward another 12-hour day of smiling through clenched teeth for tips that never quite stretch far enough to fill the spaces grief has left behind. Friends, before we go further, may I ask a small favour? Please subscribe to our channel. It truly helps us keep bringing you these stories, and reaching 1,000 subscribers soon is so important for us to continue. We also love hearing from you. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. It's always fascinating to see how our little storytelling circle is spreading across the world. And if you enjoyed the beginning, give this video a like, and let's share thoughts on the whole story together below. The Riverside Diner gleams like a polished penny each morning, sunlight streaming through tall windows to dance across brass fixtures and rich mahogany panels that give the establishment its reputation as the crown jewel of downtown dining, a far cry from the greasy spoons dotting the rest of the district. Shanice balances 4 plates along her left arm with the precision of a circus performer, her right hand deftly refilling coffee cups without spilling a drop, her smile fixed in place despite the casual dismissal in the eyes of the businessman who snaps his fingers for her attention, instead of using her name clearly displayed on her badge. She pivots between tables with practiced grace, memorizing special orders and dietary restrictions without writing them down, a small act of professional pride that goes unnoticed by the patrons who look through her as if she were made of the same glass as their water tumblers. A woman in a cream cashmere sweater purses her lips when Shanice accidentally brushes against her designer handbag, muttering about personal space while taking up 3 chairs with her shopping bags from exclusive boutiques where Shanice could not afford even the smallest item on clearance. Another regular customer asks if Shanice is new here, despite her having served him weekly for almost 2 years, his eyes lingering too long on the curves of her uniform before returning to his Wall Street Journal. In the corner booth, a group of real estate developers loudly discuss gentrification as a positive force while scanning property values on their tablets, oblivious to the irony as they debate which neighborhoods are ripe for investment, the same neighborhoods where families like hers are being pushed out by rising rents they can no longer afford on service industry wages. Mr. Bors Peterson emerges from his office like a storm cloud in a button-down shirt, his pale face perpetually flushed with contained irritation, eyes narrowing as he beckons Shanice to the service station with one crooked finger. His voice drops to a whisper that somehow cuts through the breakfast clatter as he reminds her that her position is precarious after missing her shift last week, when Zoe had strep throat and a fever of 103, as if her daughter should have tended to herself while Shanice served Belgian waffles to weekend brunchers who complain when the organic maple syrup is room temperature instead of warmed. He taps his watch meaningfully when she spends too long explaining refills to an elderly couple, the only customers who ever ask about her by name, the unspoken threat of reduced hours hanging between them like an invisible blade while she calculates in her head how many dollars each minute is worth against the electricity bill due next week. The morning sun warms the leather booths and illuminates the polished espresso machine that hisses and steams like a mechanical dragon, but nothing can thaw the chill that settles into Shanice's bones as she navigates this beautiful space where she is simultaneously essential and invisible, her livelihood balanced as precariously as the plates on her arm, one bad tip or missed shift away from the financial abyss that constantly yawns beneath her careful footsteps. The Tuesday morning rhythm of clattering plates and mumbled coffee orders freezes into sudden silence as the front door swings open with deliberate slowness, framing the silhouette of a man whose presence commands attention before a single word escapes his lips. Alexander Harrington III enters the Riverside Diner like a general inspecting conquered territory, his tall frame draped in a charcoal suit that costs more than what Shanice earns in 3 months, Italian leather shoes gleaming with a mirror shine that reflects the suddenly anxious faces of the staff who recognize him instantly from business magazine covers and viral videos of his notorious investor takedowns. His silver hair, styled with military precision, contrasts with cold blue eyes that scan the room with algorithmic efficiency, cataloguing every imperfection as 4 younger associates trail behind him like well-trained dogs, each clutching tablets and smartphones, ready to note his every command while maintaining a precise 2-step distance from his wake. A collective intake of breath ripples through the diner staff as Mr. Peterson emerges from the back office with the nervous energy of a small mammal in predator territory, his typically ruddy face now pale as he hurries to personally escort the billionaire to the best table by the window. Whispers cascade between waitstaff like falling dominoes, veterans warning newcomers about Alexander Harrington, the tech titan whose blue core software dominates the market, and whose reputation for either lavish generosity or scorched earth retribution precedes him like a storm warning. Julie from the morning shift still talks about the $1,000 tip he once left after closing a major acquisition, while Darnell from evenings shows everyone the 1-star review Alexander posted that got his cousin fired from the Westlake Grill for bringing sparkling water instead of still. Mr. Peterson scans the floor with darting eyes before his gaze locks onto Shanice, his thin lips forming her name with what appears to be apologetic resignation as he beckons her over with a subtly desperate gesture that communicates both an order and a plea. A cold weight settles in Shanice's stomach as she approaches, her colleagues shooting sympathetic glances while simultaneously retreating like witnesses to an unavoidable accident, the breakfast rush suddenly secondary to the high-stakes theatre unfolding by about table 7. Alexander does not look up as she approaches, absorbed in his phone while his entourage arranges his preferred seat, positions his napkin, and recites his usual coffee specifications to Shanice as if she were a voice assistant rather than a human, the casual dehumanization striking her like a physical blow even before the man himself acknowledges her existence. When Alexander finally raises his gaze to Shanice, his eyes flick dismissively over her face before returning to his device, his attention a resource more precious than the billions in his accounts. the message clear that she exists only as a delivery mechanism for his breakfast, a cog in his morning machinery that can be replaced or discarded with the same emotional investment one might have in switching brands of paper towels. The morning sun slants through the windows of Riverside Diner, casting golden light that fails to warm the chill emanating from Table 7, where Alexander Harrington III holds court amid his sycophants, who hang on his every word like eager students before a renowned professor. Shanice approaches with careful steps, balancing a tray of precisely prepared breakfast dishes that meet the exacting specifications rattled off earlier, only to freeze mid-stride as a silver fork clatters to the hardwood floor with deliberate momentum, Alexander's manicured hand having nudged it with casual precision while maintaining eye contact with his colleague mid-sentence. His conversation never pauses as Shanice sets down the plates and bends to retrieve the fallen silverware, her spine stiffening at the barely concealed snickers from the younger men at the table, who exchange knowing glances as if participating in a familiar game. No sooner has she straightened and presented a fresh fork than a knife somehow slips from the table edge, requiring another retrieval as Alexander complains about the quality of the orange juice, while gesturing with hands that somehow dislodge a spoon next, then a napkin, creating a steady rhythm of Shanice bending and rising like a mechanical doll performing for wealthy children. Her knees ache and her cheeks burn as she feels the eyes of other diners witnessing her humiliation, some looking away in embarrassed solidarity, while others watch with the detached interest of audiences observing street theatre that does not require their intervention. When she returns with the coffee carafe for refills, Alexander suddenly grabs her left hand with cold fingers that feel like handcuffs against her skin, twisting her wrist to examine the simple gold band that has lost its shine over years of dish soap and disinfectant. His voice rises deliberately above the breakfast chatter, theatrical in its mock concern as he asks Sal if that is copper she's wearing, suggesting she should ask Santa for a real ring this Christmas, his eyes gleaming with the particular satisfaction of a predator who has identified a vulnerable spot. His associates erupt in synchronized laughter that sounds like glass breaking in an empty room, one adding that perhaps she could upgrade to silver next year if she saves her pennies, another wondering aloud if her finger is turning green beneath the cheap metal. The coffee pot trembles slightly in her right hand as Shanice fights to maintain her professional mask, feeling hot tears building behind her eyes with the pressure of a burst pipe, while her throat constricts around words she cannot afford to say to a man who could destroy her livelihood with a single phone call or negative review. She focuses on the weight of the ring, thinking of Marcus placing it on her finger, with hands still calloused from his last deployment, remembering his voice promising it would shine again like new with proper care, just as they would after his final tour, a promise forever unfulfilled as she swallows her dignity along with her grief and asks in a voice stretched thin as parchment if they would like more cream for their coffee. A pair of watchful eyes track Shanice from the corner booth as she steadies herself against the service counter. The coffee pot returned to its warmer, with hands that have stopped shaking through sheer force of will. The elderly black man sits alone with his newspaper and half-finished breakfast, his worn tweed jacket and carefully knotted tie speaking of dignity preserved through decades of similar indignities. His presence so still and self-contained that most patrons overlook him entirely. When Shanice finally raises her gaze from the floor where her pride lies scattered, like the deliberately dropped silverware, she finds the man watching her with clear brown eyes that hold neither pity nor judgment, but something rarer in her experience, a recognition that passes between them like a current, his slight nod communicating volumes in the silent language of shared history. His weathered hands fold the newspaper with deliberate care, revealing glimpses of gold cufflinks that contrast with his otherwise modest attire, suggesting layers to his story that intrigue Shanice, even as she returns to her duties, back straightening as if an invisible hand has helped her rise to her full height. The breakfast rush continues its relentless pace as she delivers plates and refills cups, her professional smile reattached with the practiced skill of someone who has learned that dignity sometimes means simply continuing forward when retreat is not an option. From across the room comes a sudden commotion, as a new waitress, barely 19 with nervous hands and eager eyes, trips slightly while delivering Alexander Harrington's Eggs Benedict, causing a splash of hollandaise sauce to land on the sleeve of his immaculate suit jacket. The girl freezes in terror, as Alexander rises from his seat like a thundercloud forming, his voice cutting through the diner noise as he demands to know if she realizes the cost of his clothing, if she was raised in a barn, if she has any business serving civilized people when she clearly belongs in a fast food establishment with other incompetents. The young waitress stands paralyzed as tears well in her eyes, her apologies swallowed by his escalating tirade while his associates watch with the detached amusement of spectators at a blood sport. Without conscious decision, Shanice finds herself stepping between them, napkins in hand as she addresses Alexander, with calm professionalism, explaining that she sent the girl with the order while she prepared fresh coffee, taking responsibility for not properly training her newest colleague, while efficiently blotting the stain with soda water in confident motions that brook no argument. The elderly man observes this intervention with intense interest, his coffee cup raised halfway to his lips as Alexander blusters through her explanation before grudgingly accepting the clean jacket and free breakfast offer, his momentary confusion at her composed authority giving her just enough space to guide the shaking girl back to the kitchen, with a protective arm around trembling shoulders and whispered assurances that she will handle table 7 for the remainder of their visit. The lunch crowd begins filtering into the diner as Alexander Harrington signals for his check, deliberately catching Mr. Peterson's attention to request that Shanice specifically handle his payment, his lips curling into what might be mistaken for a smile, if not for the coldness in his eyes. She approaches with professional detachment, presenting the leather folder containing his bill with both hands as he extends a platinum credit card without glancing at the total, his attention fixed on her face as if waiting for some reaction that would provide further entertainment. His associates gather their devices and stand in formation behind his chair, their morning business apparently concluded with the same efficiency as their breakfast. When Shanice returns with his receipt for signature, Alexander makes a show of examining the total before inscribing his name with a flourish, folding the customer copy into his wallet while leaving exactly $5 on a bill exceeding $150. His eyes flick deliberately to her hand as she reaches for the leather folder, his voice pitched to Carrie as he suggests that perhaps if she saved her tips more carefully she could replace that costume jewelry with something that wouldn't embarrass her when serving people of quality, a token of advice he offers free of charge unlike his valuable time. Something shifts within Shanice, like tectonic plates realigning after years of pressure, a molten core of dignity rising through layers of practiced patience and swallowed responses. With steady fingers that surprise her, she removes the simple gold band from her left hand and holds it towards the light streaming through the window, illuminating the tarnished surface that catches the sun like a forgotten treasure. She invites Alexander to examine the interior of the ring, where small letters form words too intimate for casual viewing, words he must lean forward to read if curiosity compels him, which it does with the reluctant magnetism of someone witnessing an unexpected act of defiance. His eyes narrow as he reluctantly reads the inscription circling the inner band. For my queen who saved a soldier's heart, Medal of Honor recipient Sergeant Marcus Turner, the words engraved in a metal more precious than its monetary value could ever suggest. Alexander's expression falters for the first time that morning, as understanding dawns that he has spent the past hour mocking the widow of an American hero, the realization spreading across his features like a stain he cannot blot away with expensive napkins or casual cruelty. From his corner booth, the elderly man lowers his newspaper completely, his attention wholly fixed on the tableau unfolding before him, his eyes missing nothing as Shanice replaces the ring on her finger with the reverence of a sacred ritual before gathering the meager tip with dignity that transforms the mundane action into something approaching ceremony. The Wednesday morning shift begins like any other, with Shanice tying her apron strings and mentally calculating which bills might wait another week if tips prove generous, when Mr. Peterson appears beside her with an unfamiliar tension pulling his features into a mask of corporate anxiety. His voice drops to a confidential murmur as he informs her that something unprecedented has occurred overnight. The ownership of Riverside Diner has changed hands in a swift business transaction that none of the staff had anticipated. And more alarmingly, the mysterious new proprietor has specifically requested Shanice to appear at his downtown office immediately. The blood drains from her face as the implications cascade through her mind like dominoes falling in accelerating sequence. Certain this must be retaliation from Alexander Harrington for her moment of defiance yesterday, his vindictive reputation suggesting he would think nothing of purchasing an entire establishment simply to fire one waitress who dared reveal the humanity behind her service smile. Mr. Peterson offers no reassurance as he hands her a business card with an address embossed in gold lettering on heavy cream stock, his eyes avoiding hers while explaining that a car has already been arranged to transport her to the meeting and her shift will be covered in her absence. Fellow servers gather in concerned clusters as she removes her apron with trembling fingers, their whispered speculations following her like shadows as she retreats to the break room to collect her purse and phone. The walls of the small employee lounge seem to pulse with the rhythm of her accelerating heartbeat as she calls her neighbour, Mrs. Washington, asking if she can collect Zoe from the afternoon bus stop should this mysterious meeting result in the termination she fears is coming. Her voice cracking slightly as she contemplates updating her resume between shifts at her second job while searching for new employment in an economy that treats service workers as disposable components. Emerging from the break room, she finds the entire staff watching her, with expressions ranging from sympathy to fearful distance, as if job insecurity might prove contagious through proximity, their collective anxiety creating an atmosphere thick as storm clouds before hurricane landfall. The gleaming black town car waiting at the curb feels like a hearse transporting her to the funeral of her financial stability. The driver silent as he holds the door with white-gloved hands that make her acutely conscious of her uniform still carrying the scents of coffee and maple syrup. As the vehicle glides through morning traffic toward downtown towers that she usually only glimpses from bus windows, Shanice clutches her phone like a talisman, scrolling through employment listings with one thumb, while mentally calculating how long her meagre savings might stretch between her final paycheck and whatever minimum wage position she can secure before rent comes due again. The gold band on her finger catching sunlight through tinted windows as if reminding her of promises made that suddenly seem impossible to keep. The gleaming glass and steel tower rises like a monument to wealth and power, its revolving doors spinning Shanice into a marble lobby where security guards regard her diner uniform with barely concealed suspicion, until she presents the cream business card that transforms their demeanour from dismissive to deferential in an instant. An express elevator with polished brass fixtures carries her upward at a speed that leaves her stomach somewhere near the ground floor, digital numbers climbing higher than she has ever ventured in this city where she typically navigates only at street level between bus stops and discount stores. The 50th floor opens to reveal a reception area larger than her entire apartment, with leather furniture that has never known the imprint of worried bodies and art on the walls that costs more than her annual salary, making her acutely aware of the coffee stain on her left cuff and the small tear in her stockings hidden just below her knee. A sleek receptionist with perfect posture guides her through mahogany doors into an expansive corner office where sunlight streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a space designed to intimidate visitors with its understated opulence and breathtaking city views that make even familiar landmarks appear small and distant. Her eyes widen as she recognizes the occupant rising from behind an imposing desk. The elderly black man from the diner corner booth now transformed by context into something altogether more formidable, despite wearing the same modest tweed jacket, his gold cufflinks catching the morning light as he extends his hand in greeting. William Porter introduces himself with a voice both gentle and authoritative, each syllable carrying the weight of decades speaking truth to power as he explains his dual identity as a legendary civil rights attorney who once argued landmark cases before the Supreme Court and a venture philanthropist whose quiet investments have transformed struggling communities across the country. With a gesture that somehow manages to be both regal and welcoming, he invites her to sit in a leather chair that costs more than her car, offering coffee in a porcelain cup instead of the ceramic mugs she serves to others daily. Shanice perches at the edge of the seat as William explains that he regularly visits Riverside Diner to maintain connection with ordinary people beyond the rarefied air of boardrooms and charity galas. His keen eyes having witnessed her entire interaction with Alexander Harrington the previous day, from the deliberate humiliation with dropped silverware to her defense of the younger waitress, and finally her quiet dignity in revealing the true value of what appeared tarnished. His weathered hands fold together as he describes how her grace under pressure moved him deeply, reminding him of his late wife who similarly carried inner strength beneath an unassuming exterior, his expression softening with memory before hardening again with purpose as he explains that people like Alexander have long mistaken kindness for weakness, while overlooking the true character of those they consider beneath their notice. The morning light shifts through the towering windows as William Porter rises from his leather chair to retrieve a folder from a nearby credenza, his movements deliberate as he explains that their meeting goes beyond the diner purchase, which was merely a convenient pretense to speak with her privately without alerting certain interested parties. His voice takes on a professor's cadence as he details how Alexander Harrington has launched a hostile takeover attempt of the Fallen Heroes Medical Research Foundation a non-profit organization developing groundbreaking treatments for combat injuries that sits on valuable patents worth billions to private interests. Shanice feels the floor tilt beneath her as William reveals that one of their early experimental procedures saved hundreds of soldiers in Marcus's unit during his second deployment, the same innovative technology that Alexander now seeks to privatize and monetize beyond the reach of ordinary veterans without platinum insurance coverage or political connections. Photographs spread across the polished desk surface show Alexander at charity galas, posing with politicians, while documents outline his systematic purchase of board seats through shell companies and proxy investors, his public philanthropy masking as a ruthless campaign to control life-saving research that should remain accessible to all who served. William speaks with increasing urgency about an upcoming board meeting where the final votes will determine the Foundation's fate, explaining that he needs someone with an authentic personal connection to counter Alexander's rehearsed speeches and strategic donations, someone whose lived experience can humanize the stakes beyond balance sheets and profit margins. His eyes hold hers with uncomfortable intensity as he offers her a position as Community Outreach Director at his foundation starting immediately, with a salary triple her current income and flexible hours built around Zoe's school schedule, medical benefits that would cover the asthma medication currently rationed in their bathroom cabinet, and educational opportunities that could finally make her abandoned nursing degree a possibility rather than a fading dream. The offer hangs between them like a life raft to a drowning woman, too perfect and too sudden to be trusted completely as Shanice mentally catalogues all the times seeming opportunities revealed hidden costs too late. Her thoughts racing through scenarios where wealthy men extended help that carried unexpected obligations or strings invisible until painfully taut. Her fingers find Marcus's ring through habit as she questions why someone of William's stature and connections would choose a waitress with no public speaking experience for such a critical role, when surely dozens of polished professionals could make the same points with greater eloquence. Her direct question about his true motives causing a flicker of surprise across his composed features before his lips curve into a smile of genuine respect for her caution rather than immediate gratitude. The digital glow of a borrowed laptop illuminates Shanice's determined face well past midnight as she scours news articles and legal journals chronicling William Porter's 40-year career, fighting corporate exploitation, each victory against powerful interests adding credibility to his unexpected offer, while Zoe sleeps peacefully in the next room, unaware that her future hangs in the balance of her mother's decision. 3 separate video calls with Marcus's former squad members confirm the Foundation's critical role in developing the battlefield treatment that saved their unit during an ambush outside Kandahar, their faces solemn on cracked phone screens as they describe how the non-profit ensured the technology remained available to all branches of service, rather than limited to elite special forces with bigger budgets. Morning sunlight streams through thin curtains as Shanice finally calls the number on William's card, her voice steady as she accepts the position with clear conditions about transparency and educational opportunities, the weight lifting from her shoulders as practical details of start dates and paperwork replace the gnawing anxiety of financial precarity that has been her constant companion since Marcus's flag-draped coffin arrived home. Across town in a sterile penthouse, 58 floors above the city, Alexander Harrington paces across minimalist white marble floors, his reflection multiplied in floor-to-ceiling windows as he barks commands into a Bluetooth earpiece, fury contorting his features as private investigators report William Porter's newest hire. Crystal tumblers crash against modern art installations as Alexander processes this connection between his longtime business rival and the waitress who humiliated him. His technological empire built on crushing smaller competitors now focusing its surveillance capabilities on dissecting every aspect of Shanice Turner's existence for exploitable weaknesses. Banking algorithms flag her overdue electric bills and student loan deferrals, while facial recognition software scans social media platforms for indiscretions at college parties long deleted but never truly gone from digital archives, each potential vulnerability catalogued with clinical precision as Alexander dismisses suggestions that attacking a war widow might generate negative publicity. The stark contrast between worlds continues as Shanice sorts through her modest wardrobe for appropriate professional attire, while Alexander's team compiles comprehensive background reports delivered by a private courier to his glass desk. Her hopeful selection of her single presentable blazer juxtaposed against his cold dismissal of subordinates who fail to find immediate scandal in her history. Evening finds Shanice practicing her testimony before a spotted bathroom mirror, reciting facts about Marcus's treatment, while Alexander reviews footage of her neighborhood shot by discreet security contractors. Her genuine emotion in describing her husband's sacrifice paralleled by Alexander's calculated assessment of which community vulnerabilities might pressure her to withdraw support from William's coalition. The stakes escalating with each hour as unseen forces align against a woman who dared stand firm against wealth and power that has never encountered significant resistance. The gleaming hallways of the Fallen Heroes Foundation headquarters become Shanice's second home as she absorbs complex medical research terminology with the same precision she once memorized breakfast orders, her natural empathy connecting with veterans who visit the facility while her organizational skills transform chaotic filing systems into streamlined efficiency that impresses even the most skeptical board members. Photographs of Marcus appear on her new desk alongside Zoe's artwork, his memory now serving a purpose beyond private grief as she compiles testimonials from families whose loved ones benefited from the Foundation's work, her compelling personal narrative attracting media attention that William leverages into public support against Alexander's takeover attempt. The increasing momentum behind their campaign registers like physical pain across Alexander's features as he convenes a strategy session in his corporate war room, dismissing conventional approaches in favor of targeting what his analysts identify as Shanice's primary vulnerability, her daughter Zoe, whose school receives an unexpected visit from a woman claiming to represent a children's magazine writing stories about military families. The 8-year-old innocently answers questions about the father she barely remembers, unaware that no article will ever appear and her recorded responses will be selectively edited to suggest family dysfunction, useful in undermining Shanice's credibility before the board vote. Maternal fury blazes through Shanice's professional composure when her daughter's teacher calls about the unauthorized interview, security footage confirming the fake reporter's connection to a private investigation firm on Alexander's regular payroll, the violation of her child's privacy, igniting a protective rage that carries her through security checkpoints at Harrington Tower later that afternoon, her Foundation credentials providing access that her diner uniform never could. Alexander's executive suite projects power through intentional minimalism, his desk a single slab of imported glass without drawers or ornamentation, his greeting carrying false warmth as if her unscheduled appearance constitutes a social call rather than a confrontation about his tactics. Their verbal exchange escalates from professional disagreement to personal attack as Alexander casually mentions his extensive background investigation discovering her juvenile misdemeanor for protest trespassing during a demonstration against military recruiting at her college campus, years before she met Marcus and evolved her understanding of service. His voice drops to silken menace as he suggests how devastatingly ironic this youthful indiscretion might appear to conservative board members and veteran groups when anonymously leaked alongside implications about her subsequent marriage to a soldier, questioning whether her current advocacy represents genuine conviction or merely financial opportunism orchestrated by William Porter. The crisis crystallizes in this sterile room high above the city where Alexander offers a deceptively simple resolution, her immediate resignation and public statement supporting his takeover bid in exchange for permanent burial of her record and a generous financial package that would secure Zoe's education through college, his manicured finger hovering above a document awaiting her signature, as he explains with practiced reasonableness that everyone ultimately has a price, the only question being how much and under what circumstances they finally accept the inevitable. The Foundation conference room transforms into a sanctuary of purpose as William guides Shanice through presentation techniques refined during decades of courtroom battles, his patient coaching drawing out the natural eloquence that always existed beneath her quiet exterior. Evenings stretch into nights as they refine her testimony on the patient access implications of privatized research, his experienced hand highlighting passages where her authentic voice rings most powerfully while gently redirecting technical sections better handled by medical staff. During a late dinner of takeout containers spread across research papers, William grows uncharacteristically silent before revealing a weathered photograph of a young soldier with his familiar eyes and jawline, explaining in a voice textured with grief how his only son died in the same deployment that took Marcus, their convoy separated by mere miles on that fateful day in Afghanistan. The shared loss bridges remaining formality between them, as William describes how his son might have survived with the very technology the Foundation later perfected, his decades of corporate legal work suddenly finding personal meaning in protecting medical innovations for the future soldiers whose names they would never know but whose lives held infinite value beyond profit margins. Their growing bond stands in stark contrast to televised news reports playing in the background, showing Alexander Harrington presenting oversized checks to veterans organizations, his publicity team orchestrating photo opportunities with elderly service members as camera flashes capture his practiced compassionate expression for morning newspapers. Public relations firms work overtime crafting Alexander's image transformation from ruthless tech billionaire to passionate military supporter, each calculated appearance generating social media testimonials from paid influencers about his long-standing commitment to causes he privately dismissed as charity cases weeks earlier. Financial news programs debate the business wisdom of his sudden philanthropic streak, while gossip columns speculate about his surprise appearances at veterans' hospitals with celebrity friends in tow. The manufactured goodwill campaign gaining traction among board members susceptible to positive headlines and glamorous fundraising galas, where champagne flows more freely than actual details about his planned foundation restructuring. Shanice watches these reports with growing determination rather than discouragement, recognizing the hollow performance beneath expensive production values, while William uses each publicity stunt as teaching material for countering emotional manipulation with authentic testimony. Their preparation intensifies as Alexander escalates his campaign, her confidence growing under William's mentorship while she develops a presentation style uniquely her own, neither imitating his legal precision nor attempting corporate polish, but instead embracing her perspective as a widow whose intimate understanding of both loss and resilience cannot be purchased with any amount of charitable donations or manufactured media narratives. The gleaming reception area of Bluecore Technologies headquarters feels like a trap disguised as opportunity, as Shanice sits rigidly in the visitor chair, her foundation badge prominently displayed, while Alexander Harrington slides a contract across polished marble with the casual confidence of someone accustomed to purchasing whatever obstacles appear in his path. The document outlines a consulting position with a salary that makes her breath catch, alongside a signing bonus that would instantly eliminate every debt shadowing her existence. The only requirements being her immediate resignation from the foundation, withdrawal from tomorrow's board presentation, and a brief statement endorsing Alexander's vision for the organization's future. Her fingers hover over the embossed paper as she calculates how many of Zoe's needs this money would satisfy, from asthma treatments to college savings to a bedroom with actual privacy in an apartment where water pressure remains consistent and winters don't require extra blankets when the heating fails. Alexander interprets her silence as negotiation rather than moral inventory, adding zeros to figures already beyond her imagination, while explaining how this arrangement benefits everyone involved, his rehearsed reasonableness almost concealing the predictory satisfaction in his eyes as he anticipates another successful acquisition. The moment crystallizes with unexpected clarity as Shanice remembers Marcus describing combat decisions made in milliseconds that revealed a soldier's true character, her hand withdrawing from the contract with quiet finality that transforms Alexander's expression from confidence to cold fury as she explains that her integrity isn't for sale regardless of market value. The retribution comes with brutal efficiency 3 hours later as her phone explodes with notifications about breaking news stories revealing her college arrest record, manufactured quotes from former classmates describing her as an unstable radical, and carefully edited footage of Zoe's interview implying family dysfunction that raises questions about her credibility as a foundation spokesperson. Rain falls in sheets that soak through her thin jacket as the foundation car drops her at her apartment building, where television vans crowd the narrow street. Reporters huddled under umbrellas calling her name with the hungry persistence of predators sensing wounded prey, their camera lights creating harsh shadows across familiar concrete steps now transformed into an unwanted public stage. Neighbours peer through parted curtains as Shanice fights through the media gauntlet, microphones thrust toward her face capturing her expression of shocked betrayal, while questions about her past political activities and parenting decisions blend into a roaring hurricane of public humiliation orchestrated for maximum damage before tomorrow's critical vote. The apartment door barely closes against the onslaught before Zoe emerges from her bedroom in tears, confused by schoolmates sending screenshots of news stories about her mother and father, her small face crumpling with questions no child should face as Shanice confronts the true cost of her principles measured, not in dollars declined, but in her daughter's shattered privacy and sense of security. Morning sunlight streams through stained glass windows of the historic Veterans Memorial Hall, where the Foundation Board convenes for their annual meeting. The elegant chamber filled beyond capacity with media representatives drawn by controversy, while board members in somber business attire arrange papers at a mahogany table that has witnessed decades of decisions affecting those who served. Alexander Harrington arrives with his legal team in formation behind him, his confidence evident in the practiced smile he bestows upon key stakeholders while deliberately avoiding eye contact with William Porter, who sits beside Shanice reviewing last-minute presentation notes, her simple navy dress and single strand of pearls borrowed from a Foundation colleague, presenting professional dignity without pretension. Tension thickens the air as preliminary matters conclude and Shanice approaches the podium, her hand steadier than expected as she places a single photograph of Marcus in dress uniform beside her notes, drawing strength from his memory as she begins speaking not with practiced rhetoric but with authentic clarity about their journey, from high school sweethearts to military family to her devastating loss. Computer screens illuminate as she transitions to the Foundation's critical research, displaying technical specifications alongside casualty statistics from Marcus's unit, her voice gaining authority as she explains how similar technology might have saved her husband if development hadn't been delayed by funding cuts from a familiar corporate source. The revelation lands like artillery as Shanice produces internal memos obtained through William's connections showing Alexander personally redirected military research grants toward commercial applications with higher profit margins, his signature authorizing the termination of the very program that might have developed treatment protocols in time for soldiers like Marcus. Murmurs cascade through the audience as William approaches with additional documentation showing how Alexander's technology companies secured exclusive government contracts for systems that failed in combat zones while simultaneously lobbying against expanded veterans' benefits that would increase care costs for returning soldiers. Board members exchange troubled glances as Alexander rises to interrupt, his practiced charm cracking under pressure to reveal the calculated coldness Shanice first witnessed in the diner, his attempted rebuttal undermined by William methodically connecting evidence of systematic profit prioritization over soldier welfare across 2 decades of military partnerships. The atmosphere shifts perceptibly as Alexander's most reliable supporters begin distancing themselves from his increasingly desperate explanations, their expressions transforming from skepticism toward Shanice to growing horror at the comprehensive evidence of exploitation presented with irrefutable documentation rather than emotional appeals. The vote, when finally called, cascades through the board in unprecedented unanimity against the proposed takeover, each member adding personal statements rejecting Alexander's leadership vision while committing to expanded research accessibility, the corporate predator who arrived expecting conquest now standing isolated, as reporters who came anticipating Shanice's humiliation instead document his professional repudiation and hasty departure through side doors to avoid further questions about his military contracting history. Autumn sunlight spills across polished conference tables where Shanice Turner now presides as Education Director of the Fallen Heroes Foundation, her confident voice guiding medical students through internship opportunities while veteran families will listen attentively to explanations of treatment protocols developed since her arrival 6 months ago. The tarnished gold band still circles her finger, catching light as she gestures towards the presentation slides, no longer a source of shame but a symbol of journeys that transform ordinary objects into vessels of extraordinary meaning. Outside these windows, maple leaves drift like memories across landscaped grounds where Zoe hosts weekend study groups from her new private school, her childhood stutter fading under patient teachers who recognize her gift for mathematics that flourished once financial stability allowed her mother to focus on parenthood rather than mere survival. Financial news channels have relegated Alexander Harrington to cautionary business school case studies after federal investigators uncovered systematic fraud throughout his defense contracting division, former associates racing to provide testimony against him as shareholders revolt and competitors acquire his devalued assets and corporate karma rarely witnessed with such perfect symmetry. William Porter still mentors Shanice through weekly lunches, where they plan outreach initiatives bringing medical innovations to underserved veteran communities. his paternal pride evident as she develops programs honouring both Marcus and his son through practical assistance rather than mere memorial plaques or empty patriotic gestures. The corner office that once intimidated her has become a sanctuary where military families find advocacy and understanding, its walls now displaying photographs of recovery milestones alongside Zoe's artwork, the space transformed by Shanice's innate talent for creating comfort within institutional settings. In quiet moments between meetings, her fingers sometimes find the velvet pouch in her purse containing Marcus Medal of Honor, not displayed for public validation, but carried as private reminder that valor requires no audience and worth exists independent of recognition, much like the seemingly ordinary waitress who contained multitudes beneath a uniform designed for invisibility. Quarterly Foundation fundraising events now feature Shanice as keynote speaker, her unvarnished authenticity connecting with donors who recognize that genuine passion outshines practiced polish. Her journey, from service industry to executive leadership, demonstrating how circumstances constrain potential until unexpected catalysts reveal capabilities waiting dormant within seemingly ordinary lives. The diner still operates under new management with fair wages and education benefits for staff. Shanice occasionally visiting for breakfast with William to remember where their paths converged around a simple gold ring whose true value never depended on its shine, but rather on the promises it contained. Visible only to those who understand that genuine worth remains constant beneath tarnished surfaces, requiring only the right eyes to recognize what has always been precious regardless of its packaging.